essentially, Sadia, first of all, thank you so much for talking to News Intervention.
No,
And we've been reading all the tweets, all the support that came in when your Twitter account was suspended. So before we go about asking what you have to say, can you take us through the background, like what happened? What did you say into the tweet, which Twitter found it very offensive and they kind of suspended your account? And why this hassle so much?
so the actual tweet that Twitter found offensive was I had tweeted that Islam is misogynistic and violent, and that's a fact, and that was all. And that was the tweet that got me banned. So I think it was they said that it was going to be 14 days, but I think it was just less than that. But before that, I had posted a video of a man who was being really violent to his wife, like physically violent to his wife. Posted it and said that this was disgusting and that Islamic justification of misogyny is not acceptable. And there were lots of people that kicked off. They were saying that Islam isn't misogynistic, this isn't Islamic, Islam only tells you to beat your wife lightly or to humiliate her or various things like that. And what I was saying was that whether you're beating a woman lightly or you've just been given permission to humiliate her, both are just as offensive, because then what you're saying is that men have a higher status, women are below them, women should be controlled by the men, which is that's just controlling behavior. To me, there's no discussion about that. It's abusive, it's controlling, and it's quite offensive, really, as a female. To me, that's very, very offensive. And these passages do exist within Islam. I was just stating a fact. It wasn't like opinion. It wasn't a personal attack on anyone. I was just stating simple facts. And conversely, quite often, the people that get us bullied, that get us banned, are harassing us. For just stating facts. They start telling us that we're stupid, that we don't understand Islam, that we don't understand the religion that we're talking about, which itself is quite patronizing, really.
So essentially, do you think that Twitter is or rather all the social media giants, Twitter specifically, is like infiltrated by the radical Islamists or the Wahhabis or somebody of some people of their mindset? Is that the case exactly?
I think so. The feeling that I've had is that the Saudi influence is now showing.
Okay.
Because it's ex-Muslim accounts that are getting that are getting blocked and banned and suspended, not the Islamist accounts. I mean, I saw a jihadi bride, tweeting. So they don't have a problem with jihadi brides, but they have a problem with ex-Muslims that haven't harmed anyone. There's this constant treating all Muslims, whether they're the fluffy liberal, cuddly liberal type, which is, less of a problem, to the radical Islamists and the fundamentalists as if they're victims, regardless of what they do. I mean, this jihadi bride, she went with the intention, she went knowing, it wasn't Shamima, it was another one, I think she was an American one. She went to join ISIS, knowing full well what ISIS are about, what they do, who they are, the fact that they've killed, the fact that they agree with killing apostates, blasphemers, non-believers, even Muslims that don't, fit their criteria. But they're not a problem to Twitter. Ex-Muslims that only criticize religion but never ever promote violence or promote the killing or suggest the killing of anybody, they're dangerous and must be banned immediately. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Okay, but tell me one thing. I mean, isn't Twitter supposed to be just a kind of a platform where anybody and everybody can voice their opinion? They can have their point of view. except for promoting violence, as you said, that the jihadi brides, they have been promoting violence, and ex-Muslims like you, you've never promoted violence. So,
Right.
when you wrote to them, there were people like us who stood in solidarity with you. A lot of people over there in the West, also elsewhere as well. When you wrote to the Twitter and others, they started tweeting in favor of your case. What did Twitter say in response to that? What was their response?
They didn't respond back to me. The first ban, no response, no correspondence at all, other than the fact that I had been banned, and I was given this like my page. Whenever I logged in, this notice came up, and I couldn't see, do, or like had no. There was nothing that I could do. The second time it happened, I could view tweets. So what they did was limit my account, so I could see tweets. I wasn't allowed to like, retweet, or tweet myself, but I could direct message. Now, what I found with the direct messaging was if anybody messaged me about the Twitter, the ban, the limiting of my account, or any specific words that were in it about suspension, banning, limiting, or anything like that, I couldn't respond. So that was very strange. But if there was a direct message about anything else, then I could respond. That was very, very strange in itself. But the second time I was banned, so I went on a show. It's a UK-based show called The Big Questions. It's about morals, ethics, and philosophy and religion. And after the show, somebody had started tweeting me, saying that I knew nothing about Islam. They were really, really quite offensive, telling me I was a prostitute, telling me that I was a stripper, that I should go back to doing my stripping, and saying like that I was ignorant, I was stupid. There were lots and lots of personal attacks. I mean, there were lots from
This
other
is
people as
disgusting.
well.
Yes.
But there was this one woman in particular that was doing it. And obviously when somebody does it so many times, you can't help but respond back, which I did. And she said, like, I've had this lots of times, by the way, if you're no longer a Muslim, why don't you change your name to a non-Muslim name? I mean, they wouldn't dream of saying that to somebody who left Christianity. My partner, his name's Jack, which is a derivative of John, which is a Christian name. He's not a Christian. He's an atheist through and through. Nobody ever said that to him. There's a new thing that started with ex-Muslims in particular. Well, why don't you completely disassociate from the religion? Well, I don't have to. And also, like, this sounds kind of petty, I guess, but now I think, well, because it pisses you off, I'm definitely going to keep my name, But the thing is, that's part of my identity. It doesn't matter if I don't believe the religion. I like my name, and there's a lot of people that feel like that. What's in a name other than
So this is a very personal thing, yeah. I mean, like,
yeah, apart from it being part of
your
the
name on, yeah.
So there was a lot of harassment around that. She started calling me Tiffany. So she was the one. She then sent me a direct message saying, like, it was quite abusive again, saying that I'm blocking your ass. But she had my account limited. So when my account was up and running again, I sent Twitter all of the messages, all of the tweets, and Twitter said, we do not see any violations that have been committed here, so we are ignoring this, pretty much. And when I emailed them, no response.
So how long did it take Twitter to finally restore all the features of your account from the day they blocked and it all started and all?
So the last time, I think it was 11 days, 10, 11 days, something like that. And then this time it was 7 days. So both times I was getting abused, and they then sided with the perpetrators. But that just shows that their Saudi funders are having an influence. They'll deny it. They absolutely categorically will deny it. I saw, I think it's Joe Rogan, his podcast that he did, and it was like 3.5 hours long with Twitter. And they were, on the podcast, they were asked about their intentions and like why they ban certain individuals and don't ban others. And you know, they took a very slick legal person with them, and she although she sounds very convincing, we knew it was lies, because what we're seeing Twitter doing and what we see Twitter saying are two very different things. And time and again, they side with the perpetrators. The most vulgar, violent, aggressive Twitter, most vulgar, violent, aggressive Islamists are often supported, and they'll use different names, they'll use different accounts, but we know who they are because of the way they behave and because of the things that they say.
Okay, and what about other social media platforms like, say, Facebook, Instagram, or do you also see some kind of a Saudi influence, the Wahhabi influence, if I be more specific, on these social media platforms as well? Facebook, Insta is obviously this thing, Facebook company as well now.
Yeah, I mean, like, so for me, Facebook personally, I've never used it for like my personal stuff. I only ever use it for like networking and like professional stuff. So I myself haven't been blocked, but I have had colleagues that have been blocked a few times and banned a few times. So yes, in short. And the frustrating thing for me is these social media platforms will claim that they're outlets for freedom of speech whenever they're involved in some kind of inquiry, or you know, there's some kind of like legal battle going on that they're involved in. They will stand proudly and they say that they're about free speech, but actually that's just a lie so that they can cover themselves in those inquiries. In reality, all they are essentially the mouthpieces for their funders and their shareholders. They only care about their influence. And now Saudi, Pakistan, you know, all the countries that are getting involved with these social media outlets, you can see the influence of them you've seen the influence of them very, very quickly within these outlets.
Right. So, what do you think, like, for activists and journalists all around the world who are, in fact, toiling all the way, all the time for defending this freedom of speech? What should people all around do? How should we beat this influence? Like, what is the way out? Is there a way out actually, or we are still like we still have to hold each other's hand and defend? It should rest over there itself.
So I did have a thought, because one of the things that Twitter most certainly fears is a drop in their numbers. You know, it's all about maximizing how many people are engaging with their platform. So I did think that even like for certain days of the year, for certain days of the month, we should, particularly as free thinkers, just boycott the platform altogether so that they can see the impact that they're having on us. Like they feel a bit of the impact that they're having on us. Do you see what I mean? I don't know if it's easy to coordinate. I doubt it very much that it would be easy to coordinate, but I did wonder if that was something that we could start. So like, you know, a few days a year where we just stop using social media outlets as a protest. But the fact that we're even having to consider that, to me, is quite upsetting, because this is a lifeline. These platforms are a lifeline for some people trapped in, you know, really serious situations. We don't even have to go as far as thinking about Saudi, Pakistan, Iran, Afghanistan, or anything like that. You only have to think right here, right now. You know, we have clients that are in the closet. If they were found out that they would be at risk of being forced into marriage, honor-based violence, or even being taken abroad and killed. You know, that can happen and has happened in the past. So for them, these social media platforms are an outlet that they don't have that anywhere else. So for social media outlets to be punishing them because they feel aggrieved by what they're saying, it's quite sad and it's quite pathetic. But because these guys are sat in their ivory towers quite comfortable not being affected by the things that non-believers are being affected by internationally.
Okay. And one last thing on this issue. Are you the only one? I mean, are ex-Muslims the only ones who are specifically targeted by Twitter, or you see people denouncing their other religious faiths? For instance, somebody becoming an atheist from Christianity or from Hinduism or Buddhism, they're also equally targeted, or Twitter is like targeting more of the ex-Muslims? Is there a bias over there?
I think what I've seen is ex-Muslims, radical feminists that want to talk about the trans issue, like conservatives. Even if I disagree with their ideas, they are also targeted and silenced. So there's quite a few groups, but it's all about what Twitter feels in relation to what they're saying. You know, they definitely have their own biases.
Okay. I get your point. And one last thing, final thing before we can like wind this up. How important is Wahhabi influence all across the world among the Muslim population across the world? Because Wahhabism, if I understand it correctly, they are the dominant philosophy over there in Saudi Arabia, and because Saudi Arabia has all the money because of the oil, petrodollars. So they can influence, they managed to portray Wahhabism as the Islamic central thought, which
Yeah.
is quite erroneous. So how important you feel is the influence of Wahhabism all across?
It's been very, very influential. So Saudi are the new international like colonizers and imperialists. You know, Saudi imperialism is rife. Look at the influence in every single Muslim community internationally. I'm not just talking about countries, I'm talking about every single community internationally. You know, so as an example, Pakistani High Street used to have things like Shalwar Kameez, you know, which came with the dupatta, which you would loosely put on your head. Nowadays, the same street, the same high streets would be covered in burqe, abaya, hijabs, and even the like national clothing has changed from like, you know, there's tiny kameezes and they're like fabulous, you know, big shalwars to like anarkali kameezes, which are like long tunics, pretty much looking like abayas, right? And actually, that's happened internationally. When I was growing up in Britain, I never ever saw a single hijab. I never saw a single niqab. Hijabs might have been surfacing a little bit, but if somebody came wearing a hijab, it was considered quite unusual. And even more so if they wore a niqab. Now, there's a sea of niqabs, let alone just hijabs.
In Britain, yeah.
Yes. And I don't see women wearing the dupatta. I don't see women wearing like shalwar kameezes, like their national, you know, their national beautiful fashion that they used to have has just disappeared. And Saudi has spent a lot of money Islamicizing the world, making it, you know, pulling it to the Wahhabi conservative interpretations that they hold dear. I think one year they spent $70 billion pumping their literature, their ideas, you know, their view of Islam into every single madrasa, Islamic institution, Islamic school, Islamic sort of charity, Islamic institutions, pulling it to this really deeply conservative Islamic ideology. And like, you know, look at the countries that it's impacted. Bangladesh used to be a Sufi country, predominantly Sufi country. You don't see that anymore. You know, Pakistan used to have this rich Sufi heritage, and we used to have qawwalis, and, you know, like people would sing at, you know, their bars and things like that. All of that has been erased and replaced. Like there's some kickback, but it's much harder for them because it's the the fundamentalists often are emboldened rather than giving support to the liberals and the kind of not so crazy Muslims.
True. I agree. Thank you so much, Sadia. This is a very elaborate topic, and we will continue talking to you, taking your interviews on these issues. This is only the first in this series, and news intervention stands with all the free thinkers all across the world, and we will be there. So thank you once again. And if there is anybody who has again been targeted by Twitter or any of the social media platforms or faces anything, we are there to give them a voice and support. So you're free to make them available, and we will give them a platform, and we will raise these issues, and let us fight this battle together, because this is a very long drawn thing. This is not going to vanish overnight, because Wahhabi influence is not going to vanish overnight. They have the money, they have the muscle, and they have the power. So we only have each other's goodwill and support.